Okay, so this is going to be a little tutorial video on how to clean the plaster traps that are underneath the sinks. First thing you're going to do is you're going to open the doors to the plaster trap. So you're going to see this cylindrical container that's at the bottom of the sink. You're going to want to have gloves and probably a bucket with a trash bag in it because the stuff gets kind of stinky. So a separate trash bag that you can put the remnants of the plaster in so that it doesn't stink up the larger trash bag. So you're going to have 4 little twist turning knobs, wing nuts. You're going to undo all of those. This particular one I chose because it has a broken off tab, so you'll want to have a pair of vice grips with you, and that way you can turn that one and get it loose. All pretty simple, really. What these plaster traps do is prevents the plaster from getting in the main line and solidifying and causing a lot of damage. The drainage comes down here, enters at the bottom, fills up with water till it pressurizes, and then pushes it out this exit valve. What's in between is this cheese grater like looking sieve that filters out all that plaster. So you can take those nuts off, you're going to remove the top lid, you're going to have a gasket here, and this is where you might get the first kind of smell of what the plaster is in fermenting in there like. So you can take this off and set it off to the side. We'll want to wipe this down and clean this gasket when we put it back on. Then we're going to remove the plaster trap. It might take a little bit of effort because it's got kind of suction in there from the water and the plaster. And then you're going to take your bucket, get it as close as you can, lift this up. You'll see on the side closest to the drain that you have a rather large opening. Keep that in mind because it's important when we're going to put it back in. Let it kind of drain here. And you can see that there's plaster that's built up in there. The side that faces the drain is going to have these larger holes for material to move through and sieve through, and then the exit side is going to have this smaller sieve. What we're going to want to do is basically invert that, shake that out into your bag to get all that plaster out of there. You might have to use your fingers and do a little digging as well. So it can get kind of messy, but that's okay. It needs to happen. This is important because, like I said, if we don't do it, then we end up with plaster building up in the system and the pipes and things will start to back up. If the sinks are ever backing up, this is the reason why. This isn't terrible. This is actually pretty good. Got a little bit of plaster buildup in there. Just kind of use your thumb or finger. You can even get a tool to kind of knock that out. So each one of these sinks has a plaster trap, and the sink in the plaster mixing room also has one too, and I'll do a separate video on how to clean that one. As we clean that out, and we get that pretty much good to go, we get all of that kind of gunky, nasty plaster out of there. That's going to promote a much better flow of water into the pipes and keep everybody happy. So that looks pretty good. Kind of set that off to the side. Next thing we do is kind of gross, but you're going to want to put your hand down into the cylinder. Get this out of the way. What you'll see is you'll go into about 3-4 inches of water that's kind of resting because that's where it ends right here at this pipe. And then you're going to get out the residual kind of chunks that have been floating in there as well. Throw those in your bucket. Gloves are nice for this. It is kind of stinky. If we do it frequently, the less stinkier it will be and become. The other thing you want to kind of do is you want to kind of put your finger from the inside into this pipe to make sure that there's no blockage there. We're actually pretty clean there. And then you can check the exit side. What you have is you actually have a little shelf that comes down, and then you have a lip that creates a decreased surface area so that you actually end up with a higher hydrostatic pressure being forced through there versus here. Okay, clean all of that out. So you get that pretty clean. What we will do, and there's just a little bit of stuff floating in there. What we will do is we will then take our plaster trap. This side faces the exit, so this is the finer sieve. The bigger sieve is actually going to face the entrance from the drain from the sink. Get that cleaned out. Make sure all that gunk is cleaned out. And that looks pretty good. And then we're going to just slide this back into place. So it doesn't go this way. It goes this way. Big opening towards the drain. Slide that in, let it fall down, push it down. You want to grab some paper towels. Some of those paper towels to kind of clean this lip up. We want that gasket to sit on there and keep it nice and pressurized. If that gasket has gunk on it, then what happens is if this gets backed up, the pressure is going to build. It's not just going to push out up here in the sink, it's going to push out here, and then we're going to end up with a rather large mess underneath the sink as well as in the sink. So what I typically do is I'll take the gasket and I'll rinse it off in the sink. And then I'll wipe it off, get it nice and dry. Same thing here, make sure this is good and dry. You're going to take your gasket ring, you're going to place it back onto the top cylinder. You're going to take the bottom of the top plate, you're going to wipe it off, get any residual gunk off of it, getting it nice and clean. And then once that looks good and clean, invert it, line up the holes, take one of your wing nuts, get it started, take the other wing nut, go to the opposite end, get it started. One of the things that's kind of important about this too is you'll alternate 1, 2, 3, 4, and that alternation is good to make sure that you get good compression on that top lid all the way through, so that you don't end up creating a moment on one end and creating an opening on the other side. That's also important when tightening a halo. So then you'll start your other one. I know I said that this was 3, so let's do that. We'll go 3. And then we'll take our broken one and start it. You want to basically hand tighten these all the way in as much as you can, alternating, maybe doing quarter turns, alternating, quarter turns. See what I did? I almost went there. It's alternating, quarter turns. And once you get that pretty tight, you hit this with the wrench, make sure that this one's pretty tight. You don't need it to be reefed down. That's a technical term. You just want it tight enough so that you're getting some compression on that gasket and that gasket's able to do its job. So once you get that good and tight, German word, it's pretty much set. Big thing is don't over tighten it to where somebody comes in, they can't actually get that off and they're spending more time doing that. So pretty straightforward, pretty simple. It'll keep the water flowing through the system nice and easy, and it'll keep the plaster from backing up into the sink and also prevent any residual plaster getting through that big sieve into those pipes and then out into the pipes out into the little foyer we have out here, which if that case were to happen, then we'd end up with a rather large expense because they'd have to come in and break up the concrete and then get into the pipes. So we don't want that happening. We want to keep the facility looking nice. Any residual gunk that you have that you drip, just make sure you go ahead and wipe that up your bag of stinky, putrid, disgusting plaster, you want to go ahead and tie that off and just take it out to the garbage. Don't put it in the garbage if you do this earlier in the day, because it's just going to smell up the plaster room. That's pretty much it. If you have questions, you can always email me, and then we'll be setting up a schedule for people to clean this. The other thing that I'll do is I'll put a QR code on the inside of the door here, and that links to this video. So if you get here and you don't remember what you need to do, just download a QR code reader on your phone, scan that, and that will actually take you to the video.